So you're looking at a period between 1830s to 1898. Now, the two key figures, one international and one national, who collide and who perhaps ought to have collaborated are Syed Jamal al-Din Afghani and Syed Ahmad Khan. So Afghani happens to be one of the foremost Muslim intellectuals of the 19th century, who is significantly responsible for rekindling pan-Islamism from Egypt to Turkey to Bharat. And his stay in Bharat is not understood enough. And his stay in Delhi and Calcutta and in the seminary called Madrasa-e-Rahmiya of Dehlavi, which is also the alma mater of Syed Ahmad Khan, is not understood enough. Now this man effectively says that in order for Islam to revive itself, the concept of a caliphate must be re-established. Now he tries to somehow rekindle the fire in Egypt. You have to remember that before Turkey became the center for Islamic caliphate, it was Egypt. So the Mamluk dynasty loses to the Ottomans, and then the caliphate passes on from Egypt to Turkey. And then they become vassals of Turkey in a particular sense. That entire region is governed by Ottomans through their governorates. Now the French and English establishments are desperately trying to install their puppets in Egypt. So there is a fight that goes on between Muslim nationalists of Egypt and that particular region and the collaborators of the British. Ultimately, the collaborators win. Afghani is responsible for leading student protests in Egypt around that particular period. So once the collaborator comes to power, he kicks him out. So this man is an itinerant, moves from Egypt, goes to Afghanistan, tries to rekindle Islamism through the Emir of Afghanistan, doesn't succeed there because the British kick him out. So from there he comes to Bombay, spends time here. From here he goes to Turkey. And he lands in Turkey, dies in Turkey ultimately. He is imprisoned by the Ottoman Sultan and he dies there. But before he goes, he spends a significant amount of period trying to understand the role that the Indian Muslim population can perhaps play in the revival of the caliphate. And he does a fantastic analysis of it. His stay is significantly responsible for mainstreaming Wahhabism further, which was already a fairly mainstream strain of Islamic thought in this country, and the importance, integrality, essentiality, and criticality of jihad in the establishment of the Islamic caliphate. He reinforces it brilliantly. And his students are the first education minister of this country, Maulana Azad, along with the founders of JUI. I think Maulana Madani spoke a few days ago, calling Islam the oldest religion in the world and that Bharat is apparently the home of Islam. That's his statement now. So these organizations effectively learnt from Afghani, because you see his publication. So he gets kicked out from here, he goes to Turkey. Before he goes to Turkey, he spends a brief period in France. Now France decided to shelter all those people who were working against the British, like Pondicherry. Okay. So like Subramania Bharati worked from here, Afghani worked from France. And so he comes out with publications. Now those publications are banned in Bharat. But somehow those newspapers and those publications find their way to Islamic institutions here, and they read and they say, this man has given a fantastic way forward in terms of a map as to how do we rekindle and revive the Muslim establishment of the world. And then they start working here actively. This is just before the Khilafat movement.